Alright, so today I'm going to be messing around with Octoprint on a Raspberry Pi. Now I just want to get this out of the way first. This is not a tutorial. It is more like a vlog video of me attempting to get this set up and working with my printer. Now I do want to say I've been using a Raspberry Pi hooked up to my printer for quite some time now. It's just been set up in a manner where this runs Raspberry and Jessie, and I use the Repetier server application on this, along with another program that allows me to turn on and off one of the I/O pins so I can turn the power to the printer on and off. Now the reason why I used Repetier server on the Raspberry Pi is because I use Repetier host for my model slicing and all that stuff, and those two things link really well together. Also, the firmware on my printer is actually Repetier firmware, so I'm basically just, the whole thing was Repetier, so I just decided to go ahead and put that on the Pi too. And that works, it worked relatively well, but I was having issues where for some reason the operating system would get corrupt on this thing. And I actually tracked it back to the micro SD card I had on this being defective. So I plugged this into a Windows PC and ran, what is it? It's like H2 test W or something like that. On the little micro SD card here, and it came back with a media is most likely faulty error. So I think like 500 kilobytes of data got corrupted across the 32 gig card. So of course none of it should get corrupted. So anyway, that's probably a bad card. Someone actually suggested using Octoprint in my comment section at one point, mostly for recording time lapses, and I do believe I can plug in like a webcam to the Raspberry Pi and record time lapses with that, but that's not what I'm going to focus on in this video. I just want to try to get this thing up and running off of what I have here. Alright, there we go. Micro SD card free from its plastic prison. Interestingly enough, these are both SanDisk Ultra cards, and one of them's got a different sort of paint color scheme to it. There we go. That black matte really doesn't work too well for this because it overexposes everything else, huh? But anyway, micro SD cards, 32 gigs. Not going to try to use that one again. Alright, so I've gone ahead and written the file onto that SD card just like you would any other operating system for Raspberry Pi. Go ahead and plug in the power here and we'll just see what happens. Kind of expecting this just to boot to some kind of a console type thing, but I'm not real sure what it'll do. Alright, so we have booted into something. Tells me I may open a web browser on my local network and navigate to any of the following addresses to access Octoprint. Now, I have no idea how that's going to work because I don't have an Ethernet cable plugged into it, so I highly doubt that's actually going to do anything. Alright, so this is why you should probably read instructions first. I need to do this within Windows still, apparently. Though you'd think that you'd be able to open it through that little terminal program still. I don't even know what the login is. It's asking for a login over here, I think. And if I don't have a login, I don't think I can shut it down either. Alright, so the password is just Pi and then Raspberry, so I'm just going to do sudo shutdown. And we have shut it off. And if I switch back over here, we're going to go off this little tutorial that I found. And I'll link this in the description as well. Plug this in. And we'll just go ahead and tell this to open folders. Alright, so what we are looking for is, don't want to format that disk, octopi-network.txt, which is presumably in this that just popped up. So octopi-network.txt right here, and this is not formatted very well, is it? Use this file to manually set the network configuration. Files included in that. So apparently WordPad will open this right, and Notepad does not really open this right. I'm not sure if saving this with Notepads or WordPad here is going to be a good idea, but anyway, we want to do a, well, we have WPA secured. So I think what we want to do is delete our pound signs here. And we're going to put in our SSID and password. I'm not entirely sure if I have to uncomment. I wouldn't think I'd have to uncomment this. Anyway. I'm not entirely sure how to do a static IP with Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this file, and we'll see if there's some kind of a setting inside of Octopi, unless this tells me. Doesn't look like this is going to actually show me what I want to know, so I'm going to go ahead and take that SD card out, put it back into the Pi, and hopefully it will actually connect. If I plug this guy in, we should get that same boot screen that we did before. Alright, we are getting somewhere. Oh, and there we go. We do have an IP address now. So I'm thinking we're going to have to use that 192.168.111.9. We'll go ahead and switch back to this guy. Nope, this one. So 192.168.111.9 should take me to the website that we want to see here for Octopi. Yep, there we go. Alright, thank you for installing Octoprint. This wizard will lead you through the final steps getting your Octoprint instance set up and ready to go. We'll get you printing in no time. Alright, next. Access control. It is, please read the following. Octoprint by default ships with access control enabled. This meaning you won't be able to do anything with the printer unless you first log in as a configured user. This prevents strangers, possibly malicious intent, from gaining power, blah, blah, blah. Looks like you haven't configured access control yet. Please set up a username and password. The initial administrator account will have full access. Alright, so we'll just do that. We'll go with this. Alright, note in case your Octoprint installation is only accessible from within a trustworthy network and you don't need access control for other reasons, you may alternatively disable it, which I probably could, but anyway, we'll keep it enabled anyway. And we'll click on next. Cura engine. You haven't. I do not have Cura engine profiles, I don't think. I wonder if I can do that later. Name, I'm going to call this Prusa i3. Technically, it's a knockoff i3 from quite a long time ago. I can't change that. This is a generic riprap printer. We'll just call it Prusa i3, and it's a model i3. I don't care. It is like a cheap knockoff i3 from like 2014. It's pretty old. Well, it is, well, was a fairly cheap knockoff of an i3 in like 2014. So anyway, print volume is rectangular. Origin is lower left. Yeah, that makes sense. Heated bed, it does have one of those. I do not have a custom bounding box. This information is used in the temperature tab. Okay, so there's more stuff here. Axes. Please define the maximum speed / feed rate of the individual axes and whether their controls should be inverted or not. Let's see, it's all millimeters a minute. I don't really know. I wonder if I have the firmware dump for this printer somewhere, because that would be a little bit more useful. This is correct. I wonder if I can change this stuff later. So what, 100 millimeters a second should be 6,000 millimeters a minute, so those are set up right. I don't really know about the Z and the E. I'm just going to leave it. Don't think it's going to matter too much. And we should be ready to go there. I'm not really sure. There's a new version of the server active now. Reload the user interface as needed. This will not interrupt any print jobs. Okay, we'll reload that. Now it's kind of interesting. It lets me go through all that without actually having the printer plugged in whatsoever. So that's interesting. There's an update available. I guess we'll just go ahead and update it. Sure, you want to update now. This will restart the server. It's interesting that the, all right, updating, please wait. It's kind of interesting that it's out of date already because I just downloaded that not that long ago. Maybe the SD card image that I found isn't actually up to date. Well, presumably it's not up to date. Not sure how long this is going to take. In the meantime, we can kind of scan through this, I guess. Looks like we've actually managed to update it already. Alright, there we go. Let's see what happens if looks like, okay, that'll work. We'll enable that, I guess. Alright, I guess we will enable that as well. And we'll click on Finish. Alright, so we're going to try this. And I'll see if I can open it in Putty and just edit it in the Raspberry Pi itself. So I was 192.168.111.9, I believe it was, and this should work. Yes. And this is just the default Pi and Raspberry again. All right, so I'm going to type in sudo nano and then that path. And there we go. And I should be able to come down here and basically just copy paste this out of here and put it in there and then change the numbers. So my static IP address is going to be, all right, so my static IP is going to be 192.168.111.150 and static router is going to be 192.168.111.1. Domain name servers, I'm just going to leave that 8.8.8.8. And then I'll put 8.8.8.4 on here. I think that should work, and then I've got to change the Ethernet 0 to LAN 0, I think. LAN 0 or WAN. Let's see, what is it? Alright, so the last time I did this, this is actually the tutorial that I used, I believe. So yes, it is WLAN 0 there, and I should be able to do Control X and then tell it to save that. Enter, and then sudo reboot should restart the system, I believe. Server is offline. Yep, we must be there. And hopefully, if I type in 192.168.111.150 without all of that stuff in it, it will pull up the correct page. Now, I'm going to have to give it a minute to reboot, obviously. I'm just going to kind of wait for the activity light on the Pi to come down. I could actually look, I don't know, let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. We can look over here and see if it's actually booted or not. Oh, yeah, it did do it. Never mind. Don't even have to look. Now, I think we should have like a plugin manager. I'm not real sure how you get to that. I probably look like an idiot to people that have used this before. All right, so these are the ones that are installed already. I'm going to go ahead and click on Get More, and I'm going to search for Power. So I'm going to get PSU control. I'm going to click on Install that. And this is what I'm going to hopefully use to be able to turn on and off my printer. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the cable that I have set up for this, if I remember exactly where it's supposed to go. Now, the way that I have my printer set up is I have a solid state relay that's connected straight up to a Raspberry Pi that allows me to turn on and off the power going into the power supply. So hopefully this will allow me to turn on and off the power supply just like I was able to before, but this time I should be able to use only this site, hopefully, instead of having to go through a whole nother service to turn on the printer. So, presumably I'm going to have to go into settings and look at that. Yep, we've got PSU control on here now. Switching mode, G-code command, system command, or GPIO pin. So I guess we can leave it on G-code command. M80 and M81. Sensing method, internal GPIO. System command, I'm not sure. Power on options, we can automatically turn the PSU on certain trigger commands. Okay. Power off. Alright, so it's supposed to be M80 and M81 are the on and off. I'm not real sure how that's going to work. What, oh no, switching. We want a GPIO pin. Yeah, okay. GPIO board, yeah, board. Pin number will be convenient. An alternate mode has already been set by another plugin. Okay. So GPIO pin. No, I think I want BCM, and I want pin number 18. Enable switching with G-code commands. Can I do that? That'd be kind of interesting, I guess. Sensing method internal. I'm not really sure. Okay, let's save that. Question is, how do I actually turn it on? Aha! There we go. And you might be able to hear the worn out bearing on the fan and the power supply that just kicked on there. So there we go. I'll go ahead and plug in the USB cable for the printer as well. That fan should settle down here in a second. Yep, there we go. Alright, so I've got the printer plugged into USB. Now we're going to click on connect and we're going to see if it'll actually pull anything up. Let's see, what do we got here? Connection. Looks like it connected. I'm not really sure how I'd tell. Yep, there we go, yep. Actual temperature and target off. So we have the temperatures here. 24.7 degrees apparently. So there we go. Control, apparently, yeah, I don't have a webcam hooked up. I might have to get a webcam for this. So I should be able to move everything. Here we go. So that appears to work just fine. Now can I turn the temperatures on? Hot end. I only got one. Temperature, can I control it from here? Target, yes I can. I am going to set the tool target to 230, let's say. So I should be able to warm that up, and then I'm going to set the bed at 40. And that should heat up everything. Yep, looks like we're starting to. And in the meantime, I'm going to come in here and I am going to set up, well actually let me see something here. I want to see what I've got the printer shape set to. I'm not sure why X-Max always gets set up to 230 on this printer. It is not that big in the X-axis. For some reason it thinks that it is. But yeah, 200 by 200 by 180 I think is what that's set to. I may have set it to 200 by 200 by 200 in here. That's not that big of a deal. Anyway, I'm going to load in, let's see, I want to load this file. And the reason why I want to load this file is because I've got some different flexible filament that I do want to try and test out here. So I'm going to slice this with the Slicer Prusa edition. And apparently that's going to take about 3 hours to complete. 3 hours and 24 minutes. Should be able to save this to a file. So here we go, octopus thick legs.gcode. I'll just leave that as it is. Alright, so if I drag this into, yeah, we're gonna upload. Okay, that's actually kind of cool. So I can upload it to the SD card in the printer, or I can upload it locally. And I don't actually have a SD card in the printer, so I'm gonna have to do it through this. So octopus thick legs.gcode we now have set up here. Let me go ahead and take out the filament that I have in it now and put in something else. Alright, so if we take a little look here, I've got some more flexible filament loaded in here, and probably shouldn't have ran it through the filament holder up there, but anyway, I'm going to come in here and try to extrude some of it. So that should, hopefully, push out some filament here. That's really, really fast for turn the flow rate down to like, apparently as low as I can go is 75%. That's interesting, because that actually is pushing it through pretty quick. Looks like I'm starting to get a little bit oozing out there though. Yep, there we go. And I will go ahead and just try to start the print, and we'll see what it does. I think it's going to ramp the nozzle temp all the way up to like 245 or something like that for this print. Alright, here we go. So that actually appears to be working just fine, except for I might have the nozzle height really, really low apparently. Not sure I can do anything about that, but we'll see what happens here. Looks like we're starting to print. Alright, I'll do my best to get rid of the noise of the 3D printer, but I apologize because I'm sure you'll still be able to hear some of it. Anyhow, I have gone ahead and went back to Repetier server here. There are just a couple of things that I didn't really like about Octoprint that I had gotten used to with Repetier server. So first off is just the interface for the control system here, which you can't see all of it right now because I am actually printing something, but normally you have the Z-axis control here, and then you also have Y-axis and X-axis controls. And what that allowed me to do was just drag these sliders around in order to move the print head. And to me that was important because I don't have any limit switches on this. So the homing was basically just setting everything back to 0, 0, 0 and calling that good. And usually that would work too. So what I could do is just drag the sliders all the way down for the Z-axis and then all the way to this bottom corner for X and Y, and that would put it at 0, 0, 0, and then that would be homed, and I could shut the power of the printer off at that point. Also, even if it wasn't homed, I did not see anywhere in Octoprint where it told me where exactly the print head was. You can see up here the current X, Y, and Z positions. So that was another thing. Again, I don't have the actual controls for it right now, but over here you usually have one of these little tabs that'll pop up and it'll show you control. Of course I don't have that because it's printing, but that would give me Z-axis control all the way down to 0.01 millimeters, and again that was kind of important to me because I needed to be able to get the nozzle at just the right height. And usually it seems like I ended up having to move it to 0.05. So on Octoprint I could only get it down to 0.1, and that was a little bit too coarse of an adjustment to really get the first layer height perfect on my machine. One thing that I really do like about the Repetier server setup, even as opposed to running it straight off of Repetier host here, because I could, and I actually used to, plug in my printer straight into the computer and just run it off of this. But one thing that's really nice is how accurate the estimated time is. So this ETE will actually almost be perfect in Repetier server. So also gives you basically the exact time that's going to finish right there. You don't have to do any math on figuring out what time that's going to end at. You can upload G-code straight to this just like you could with Octopi, though usually what I would do is just come in here and connect Repetier host into my printer, and you'll see some stuff pop up down here with the information about my printer. And then while it's printing I actually get all the estimated times and things, and we can keep track of what the printer is doing. Of course, since I just connected this, it doesn't have any information about what was lower than that, but anyway, and then this all still works too, all the controls, when it's not printing. And then just to show you, this is the model that I am currently printing. What I would normally do is go ahead and slice that, and then once it comes up in the print preview window here, there we go, I can just click on this save to server button and it'll let me save the part. So anyway, that's what I would normally do. I'm not sure where the preview's at. That's kind of odd. Usually it would actually show the sliced model over here, but whatever. And then there's also a server tab over here where you can see all the stuff that's been saved to it, and you can get more information on particular model if you click on it down here, which is basically the same information that you have here. You can also do calculations. You might be able to do this in Octopi too. I didn't really look. But you can also do calculations on cost. So this is actually going to be printed in PLA. Well, this is cost and filament only. You should actually be able to get cost, and you can add in like handling fees and cost per hour of printing as well, and get it to factor that in. And it gives you all this information about the model as well. Now, there were a couple of things that I did like about the Octopi setup. One was that I could control the power for the printer directly from the Octoprint interface. With this, what I do is I use this separate thing, which is it's like an Internet of Things type deal. But this, I just have one button here which controls GPIO pin 18 on the Raspberry Pi, and I can turn the printer on and off with that button. So this is called Cayenne. You can do some more research on that if you want to. I might do a separate video on this at some point. But anyway, that's what I'm using to turn this on and off. The other thing that I did like about the Octopi was the idea of just being able to plug a webcam into the Raspberry Pi and being able to see what's going on. Now, you can do that with this, but you have to buy the Pro license here. I believe that it would actually show up here, and you can record time lapses and things like that. But it's not cheap necessarily. If you go in here and if we wait for this to load, yeah, the Repetier Server Pro is 60 euros. Anyway, to me that seems like quite a bit of money for a piece of software, 60 euros like that. And it's more, it might be more expensive to me because it seems like you can pretty much do everything in this Pro version except for a couple of exceptions. One of them is the webcam, and then another one is you can't view your G code in 3D. And I'm not sure, yeah, I can click on this button and it should actually, it'll show me the 2D single layer, and then you can go into the, do that sort of thing where it just shows you individually what it's doing. And what you can't do is the 3D preview. It'll come up here with Pro license required. You can still see the actual G code. I'm not sure if you can actually edit it through this, but I never really had to use to edit G code anyway, and you can edit it in Repetier host anyway, so that doesn't make too much of a difference to me. And you can download it. But really, other than that, there's not a whole lot that you can't do with the free version that you can do with the Pro version. So I don't know, I just found that interesting that they're charging that much money for the Pro version of that software. Something like 20, I would think, would be a little bit more reasonable. I'm honestly just not real sure who would buy that at this kind of a price, just because the free version does basically everything that you would probably need it to. And, well, it's free. So anyway, that's been my experience with Octopi. It was completely usable. I made a few prints with it, and I decided to go ahead and go back to Repetier Server for the reasons that I mentioned before. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.